Cool. Good evening, guys. My name is Tushar Joglekar. TJ. It's easier. You can call me TJ. I am from a company called Cognizant Technology Solutions. I lead our DevOps practice in North America. So the stock is predominantly more on what actually I've seen from the industry. And Lakshmi, to your question, that you have reached the Nirvana stage. What I've typically found is most of the companies, they start thinking about dashboarding after they've started a journey in a couple of years into that, and then suddenly realize, oh, I've spent like $25 million and I don't know if I'm making any progress, right? Typically, I've seen that with the big guys, basically in banking. But there is another also way to look at it more from a perspective of it also helps you to identify the weakest link in your ecosystem. And going back to what Steve also does as a part of Visible from the value stream mapping, is what is the weakest link? How do I, actually improve from that, and so on and so forth. So I'm kind of spend some time on that. This is just some of the data. DevOps is exploding. I remember when I started doing DevOps way back in 2012, 2013, most of my conversations with clients used to be, so what is DevOps again? Is it not Agile plus plus, or is it, so what is DevOps? And then of course it has kind of exploded. Most of the clients have DevOps teams. They have engineers as designations. Pretty much what you're doing, of course you're doing in a extremely mature fashion, but most of the clients are kind of moving towards that. And the point I'm trying to make here is, since there is a lot of push, most of this, and this is actually pretty cool, right? So if you go to zbear.com, they have actually created a this table, periodic table of DevOps tools. So what has happened in last 4 years is most of these guys, most of the big clients, small clients have gone out and bought zillions of tools, and their interpretation of DevOps is essentially, okay, I have a lot of tools, I'm going to integrate them together, and then voila, right? I'm doing DevOps. But nobody's actually paying attention that, am I really making progress? How do I get a single source of truth? How do I actually know that my release velocity is increased? How do I really know that my defect coverage is decreased? How do I know that my Jira or my idea generation time to production time has decreased, and so on and so forth? The problem is, you'll probably get that view if you're using each and every tool from one single company. So for example, if in your case, probably Lakshmi, I don't know what your tool set is, but if you're using something Atlassian end-to-end, yeah, probably yes. But that happens probably 0.5% of the time, right? You'll have Jenkins, you'll have Git, you'll have Rundeck, you'll have Excel deploy, you'll have Qdeploy. So you'll have a variety of tools. So am I saying that these tools don't give you the dashboarding capability? Of course they do. But the problem with that approach is it will give you a very siloed approach with respect to those tools. So if I'm running a Jenkins dashboard, I'll know my CI status. If I'm running my Git dashboard, I'll have my SCM status. If I'm running Excel release dashboard, I'll have my Excel release status. No approach will give me an end-to-end visibility across my SDLC cycle. That prevents me knowing in a real time, am I really making progress, and what is my weakest link in the ecosystem, right? So what we actually started doing that, I'm sure you guys have heard about this platform called Hygia. So Capital One released that, I think in 2014, 2015. That was, again, it was pretty interesting. And Capital One, being a bank, and I'm from a services company, and we have a lot of internal services company jokes. And the internal joke we typically have this, by the way, Capital One is a technology company, happens to be in a bank. They have completely revolutionized in terms of the way they deliver software. They actually released a platform called Hygia in 2014. They open sourced it. The reason being that they built something for themselves, and they said, you know what, why not? Go ahead, use it. It was pretty cool, and we actually started playing around with it. And then we actually did that with some of our clients. But we found certain issues with that platform in terms of the memory usage, in terms of customization, and so on and so forth. And then we said, you know what, probably there has to be a better way to do it. So this is something, if you go to GitHub, it's actually out there. It's open source, and that's the reason I'm actually talking about it, right? But I'm going to spend some time on this, and then probably we'll move into that. Before that, any questions, any comments? Okay, so I think I made some sense or I didn't make any sense at all. But anyways, so this is on a GitHub. It's open source. Feel free to download and play around with it. It's pretty cool. And it's actually interesting. I wasn't expecting Mayank is going to join us. Mayank is the guy who actually built it, and he has an IP, which just got patented and released, I think, 2 weeks back. So it's a couple of weeks back, right? So what we said, you know what, there has to be a better way, and there has to be an easy way to do it, right? So and this project started about 4 years back. Being a services company, I struggled with my legal team for about a year to make it open source. We have never done that before, ever. Why would I open source it? That was the first question in my business. I was like, oh, this is okay. I mean, we'll let our clients use it. So we had a big fight with legal, and we open sourced it about a couple of years back. So this is on GitHub. Feel free, download, start playing around with it. It's pretty cool, right? So the whole phenomena is pretty simple. It works on two fundamental aspects. You have DevOps tools, and you have to have dashboards. And how do I connect these two aspects, right? So in between, what we created is something called agents, which is it's nothing but around 75, 80 lines worth of Python code. So you have these tools, and then you have these agents. As long as your tool is REST API compliant, we can pull data. And it's not push, it's pull. So the agent doesn't have to be residing on the server where a tool is configured, right? You can just pull the data from these tools. Then, of course, we use some RabbitMQ. We have this engine which correlates this data across these tools. And we use something called Neo4j. All these, what I'm talking about, are all open source components, by the way. So it's nothing, there is no licensing play involved in it. Neo4j also, we use a community version. The reason we use Neo4j is precisely what I was been talking about in terms of how do I build a relationship across my code, across Jira to production, right? And then it actually gives us the ability to build this relationship across these tools. And I'll show you as a part of the demo how we typically do that, right? And on the top of that, you have Grafana, and then we recently also released a couple of modules as a part of the engine, which is AI/ML capability we built. The reason we actually built that is the way I would use or I would consume a dashboard would be different the way you would use it, right? Because it basically boils down to the interpretation. We wanted to solve that problem. So what we said, you know what, I'm actually going to convert this data or this dashboard in a plain, simple textual English. So what it means, it actually tells me that my deployment cycle has increased from 6 seconds to 12 seconds. My defect coverage has decreased from, let's say, 1,300 cases to 1,100 use cases, and so on and so forth. So we kind of oversimplified that so that it's easier for anyone to consume. And then, of course, you can build those dashboards for developer, at an app level, at a portfolio level, at the executive level in terms of if he wants to consume those from a different perspective. This is integrated with your authentication systems in the company, what we call is LDAP authentication, and you can essentially do that. So now probably, unless if any questions, I'll kind of jump into demo. Yeah?
Can I use like Excel and like...
Yes, you can dump it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So typically the way we use that, that's a good question, is so when we started doing that, of course, the agents were only configured for a few tools. So I think we started with Jenkins, Sonar, and Git. I think we had only 3 agents when we started. But obviously our clients were using much more evolved tools, and then we were not ready building those agents. So that time we kind of started pulling this data from the spreadsheets and the CSV files, and the only drawback for that is it's not real time. That's pretty much it. But otherwise, you can have the same dashboards as a part of your ecosystem. But now, over a period of time, I think we have built about 25 plus agents now. So I don't think so there is any tool out there where we don't have an agent. And even if it's a scenario where we don't have an agent, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to build it because the framework is already there. We just need to put in a few dimensions, and we can probably create an agent. It's a matter of like 3 weeks time. So that's where we stand as of now.
So you guys have stuff like Zendesk and like Salesforce and like the boundaries of...
As I said, any tool which is REST API compliant, we are good to go.
Okay.
Simple. And even if it's not compliant, it kind of makes it a little complicated, but we can still have a way around it. So as long as it's REST API compliant, we are good to go.
Do you
Oh yeah, I can actually show you that. So, yeah.
Confluence, right?
Yeah, I'll go to Confluence. And I'm not able to see my cursor.
It's on the screen.
Oh,
Big screen. Stole your cursor.
okay. So this is GitHub, but if you go to this wiki, again, this is open for all. I'll just show you. It's in configuration.
Advanced configuration. Top. It'll just down below.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'll just.
Playbook. Expand that playbook part, developers playbook.
It has to be in agent management.
Sorry to distract you. I could go back.
No, that's okay. This is this is what happens in a big company when people change it and then they don't even tell me. So that's the only challenge. Otherwise, we are good to go. Okay. Let's end. Configuration.
Playlist. You can search it. There's a search icon there? You can use it maybe. What's the usage of it?
That's a good call.
Oh well, please. Roll it out. I just shaped it.
It is fun.
Yeah. You deserve definitely the t-shirt. So, yeah, if you go to supported agents, these are the agents which are currently we support across all these. So in SCM, Git, in requirement gathering, it's Jira, Rally, HP, Pivotal Tracker, version 1, pretty much everything. SCM, Git, GitLab. You use GitLab, I think. Yeah, you said that, right? Bitbucket, TFS, CI, Jenkins, Circle CI. Circle CI, actually, I think this got released just a couple of months back, if I'm not wrong. Artifact, we support Nexus Artifactory, Code Quality Sonar, Deployment, Rundeck, Urban Code Deploy, AWS, Snow. Pretty much everything out there. And these agents are already there. If you go to this wiki, it is very exhaustive. It will tell you the install on Windows, Linux, how to configure agents. It's pretty cool. So the documentation is there. We have a thriving community as well. So if you post questions on GitHub, someone like Mayank or a few folks from our community would respond to any questions you guys have, right? So now I'll need your help.
Yeah. Login, right?
Yeah.
Guys should use one password. Password.
Very cool.
Okay, so this is the demo screen, but I'll probably spend a couple of time. No. Sorry, I'm on a hotspot.
We're using a different link.
No, that's okay.
That's okay.
So you can essentially customize it n number of dashboards. I mean, this is just a demo purpose. So, but let's say if you see this, you can essentially know everything what happens as a part of your sprint. Let's say it's 75, right? How many user stories, how many commits happen, how many files were committed, how many CI builds happen. It will also give you a small aspect on your developer productivity in terms of who are the top commit users, who are the defect assignees. It will give you a CI build status and so on and so forth. You can actually get everything from Jira, right? So this is not why it is different. So I want to show you why it is different. So if you go to what we call is a traceability dashboard, it's actually interactive. So let's say I want to know what happened with this Jira key. I put in this data. What the engine does is it essentially goes to every tool and fetches the data across your tool ecosystem. So if you're using GitLab, and if you are at the Nirvana stage, which essentially makes me assume that you have a pretty robust pipeline. With the integration in place, people are using the naming conventions, Jira IDs for every commit and so on and so forth.
I don't know about that, though, naming
Yeah, but
to try and chase them. But
yeah, that's one of the main issues also we also find, right? But what essentially it will give you is it will give you what happens across your tools, right? One user story, 4 commits, 4 CI jobs, executions, and so on and so forth. So what essentially tells you that everything apart with that Jira key, it not only stops there, it will also tell you the time. And if I go further down, and it's not going down, I don't know why. Oh yeah, it will give me something. It's pretty cool. It's a line chart, right? And there are various ways to read this. The way I typically read this is, if you see Jira, Bitbucket, and Jenkins, they are almost in parallel. It tells me that you are doing pretty well on your CI because it's running in parallel. But your deployment is not in sync. You have a problem in testing. You have a problem with your code quality, and of course, your roller is not sync at all. So you're doing good on CI, but you're not doing great on testing and CD. Yeah.
Maybe I missed it. So this is like just total activity running through each tool?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, so if you want to know something, what's happening with this IS10 Jira key, it will essentially go and fetch everything with respect to that key. And it doesn't have to be Jira, it could be any other tool. So for example, if I want to know Bitbucket, and I want to know what's happening with online banking as a repo, it will go and tell me everything with this repo. Oh, it had 3 user stories, it had 9 commits, it had 16 CI jobs, 6 executions, blah, 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 and so on and so forth, right? So it's pretty intuitive. It's a two-way communication. You can gather any information what you're looking for across the fields, across your tools. And then, of course, it will also tell you the timestamp and who did what. So this is pretty cool, right? So if you see on the right-hand side, time elapsed, Jira to Bitbucket, 12 days. Bitbucket to Jenkins, 23 seconds. Jenkins to Sonar, 37 seconds. Sonar to Rundeck, 9 days. That means there is a serious issue from the code quality to Rundeck, which is your deployment engine. Rundeck to testing again is 16 hours, and testing loader is 2 days. So in one single click, you essentially can monitor everything across your SDLC, right? And this is one of the dashboards, right? You can customize it, you can build it at the app level. So probably your case, if you have too many applications, you can configure it at app level. I want to see what's happening on this particular application. Or as an executive, I want to configure it as a portfolio level. So how my team is performing at the application level and so on and so forth. So you can slice and dice the way you want. And it's pretty intuitive. It's customizable. You can edit it. You probably need a little bit exposure to Python, and then you're good to go. So you can customize your dashboards and kind of take it from there. And I think, yeah, I'm a little 16, 17 minutes, but that's pretty much I wanted to present.